Okay, what we're doing today is we're going to be writing expressions, complex numbers in standard form. So there's a couple things we need to remember about complex numbers. Okay, first, I is equal to the square root of -1. Okay, I stands for an imaginary number. As you know, the square root of -1 does not exist. So the other thing we need to remember is I squared is equal to -1. Okay? After all, I squared is the square root of -1 times the square root of -1, which becomes -1. Okay, so these are two things that we need to be aware of constantly. They're going to come up a lot. Also, standard form is a plus bi. So a is a constant, b is any number that's not 0. So again, these are all things that need to be at the forefront of our minds as we are working on these. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically just FOIL this expression as you would any other involving x or y or z, whatever. And what we get is 15 minus 12i plus 30i minus 24i squared. And again, all I did was FOIL. 15 negative 12i, then we had 30i, and then we had negative 24i squared. Now again, looking back up to what we've already gone over, that I squared is -1. So all we're going to do is I'm going to rewrite this expression substituting -1 for I squared. So we go 15 minus, I'll combine these two like terms here, which is going to give me plus 18i minus 24 times -1. So again, all I did was substitute in I squared and wrote -1 because that's a fact that we know and we're constantly going to be using. So I'm going to multiply -1 and -24. We end up with 15 plus 18i plus 24. So again, as you can see, we have two like terms, and we're just going to combine those. We end up with 39 plus 18i. And that one's done, written in standard form. Okay, sometimes you'll see an expression written like this, and what we're going to do is basically we're going to rewrite it again in standard form, remembering some of the key facts of I is equal to square root of -1 and I squared is -1. So what we're going to do is basically we're going to multiply this expression by 1, except I'm going to write it in kind of a funny way. 2 minus 3i divided by 2 minus 3i. Okay? Now, again, we're just multiplying it by 1, and I picked that for a very specific reason. I picked that exact expression. And I'll explain that in a minute. On the top, what we're going to get is 12 minus 18i. Now on the bottom, again, I picked this for a very specific reason. You guys should recognize this special patterns rule of a plus b, a minus b. Okay, the rule basically says square the first term, square the second term, and put a minus sign in between. So if we square the first term of 2, we get 4. And if we square the second term, we get 9i squared. And we put a minus sign in between. Now, I squared is good because now we know I squared is -1. So I'm going to rewrite this expression and fill in the -1. So we end up with 12 minus 18i over 4 minus 9 times negative 1. Simplifying that further, we end up with 12 minus 18i all over 4 plus 9, which as we know is 13. 12 minus 18i over 13. Now again, this isn't quite in standard form yet. These two don't look very much alike, but we can write it differently. Okay, remember 13 goes into both of these. So what we end up is 12 thirteenths minus 18i over 13. Now that one is in standard form of a plus bi. Now the last expression we have is fairly simple considering the others that we've already gone through. Sometimes you'll see I with exponents larger than 2. So what we're going to do is basically break this one down and write this one as in standard form. So what we end up with here is we can write this as, oops, I'm sorry, let me just get rid of that. We can write this as I squared times I squared times I. So what that ends up with is we know that these two are negative 1 times negative 1 times I times I. So what that ends up with is these become positive. We end up with I, and if I could just... Now you might be saying, well, if we just are saying that this is I, that it's not in standard form. Well, technically it is. Okay? If standard form says A plus BI, A can be 0, B would be 1, and I would just be I. So again, I to the 5th does simplify down to regular I.